Hi, my name is Jason Morgan. I'm a wildlife artist. Welcome into my studio again. And if you haven't seen part one of this video series, it's on my YouTube channel and it shows the basic blocking in of the wolf with Panpastels. And basically this is a test piece I did for the wolf that's on screen now. And that's the major wolf pastel I did over on my Patreon channel, where I put up brand new videos every month for a really small fee. And that's something like a 4-hour video showing all those details. But before I did that, I wanted to do a test piece so that I could become really familiar with the pastels and the techniques that I would need to get some real realism in it. So this is the actual test piece that I did, and that's what we're working to at the end of these 4 videos or 5 videos, wherever it'll be. So I'm taking each step very slowly. So here you can see that underdrawing is in there, and I've got my paper stump that I'm using to rub into the surface, or rub the surface of that pan pastel into the pastel mat paper, blending it out. Now the stump I'm using is by Derwent, and it's a very soft one. It's actually made of rice paper, and lots of times these stumps are very hard, and to know if you've got the right feel to it, perhaps you've got to use a different make. Perhaps you can't get the Derwent ones, even though they're super cheap. It should be quite pliable when you're pushing it. It should feel quite soft, like pushing on your finger. It should be giving it. If it's a very hard stump, then it's not going to blend out at all. It's going to just actually, you know, the marks are going to stay there on the paper. Now, if I use my finger with this, once again, it wouldn't blend out well at all. That pastel matte paper really holds the pastel in place, especially on these first layer or two. So that's why I like to use these soft stumps. Now, if you wanted to keep an area from moving too much, that's when the harder stumps would be used, so perhaps on an eye or something like that. But what I'm trying to create here is kind of a blurred background, and then that'll allow me to come on top with my pastel pencils, which are on the left hand side, and then I can layer on top quite easily. And this pastel matte paper will take lots and lots of layers, much more than other things like ingress. But if you can't get pastel matte paper, I've tried UArt 600 or 800 grade. That works excellent, and pastel card works excellent as well, although it's a bit more expensive. And check out my video on YouTube where I test the papers side by side, so you can see why I actually pick certain papers and if there's any downside of any of them. So you can see I'm pushing into that surface, and I can also use these stumps to grab a little bit of the pan pastel to adjust some colours slightly, but I'm not too concerned. What I'm after here is kind of like a tonal underpainting, so just the underneath, the areas that you would see in between the highlights and the darks on the reference photograph. And I want to be going darker rather than lighter. So if I'm gonna go anything, it needs to be darker, because I want to go from here then and put in the darks with either the Conti sticks on the right hand side or the pencils on the left hand side. So that'll be the darks in between these mid-tones, and then after that I'll finally come in with the lighter values with the pencils. Notice as well, when I'm blending, I'm generally blending in the fur growth and the direction in which it's actually sitting on the surface. I'm squinting at the reference photo, which is in front of me, propped upright, so I'm drawing actually flat on a table, and that eradicates too many details from the reference, because all I'm really looking for are those tones, those lights and darks, and the major color changes. So I'm just going to continue this process now and blend over the whole surface. Here you can see how I'm using that stump on his side, so that I'm covering more of a larger area. And to clean the stumps, you can just rub them on something like clean kitchen tissue or a rag, or you can rub them on sandpaper if you want to actually take the surface off and get it really clean. But they're so cheap, what I usually do is just keep one for the lighter colours, a couple brand new for whites, and then 1 or 2 for the darker colours as well. Going back in now with the pan pastels, just refining a few areas, darkening some areas, lightening a couple of other areas up. You can see how they easily go on top of the underlayer. Important not to put too much down at this stage. So now you can see that whole surface has been blended down, and I'm coming back in with the pastels again, just adjusting the colours here and there, using that piece of paper on the bottom right hand corner just as a mixing palette. It's just smooth paper, nothing special about it at all. And now I'm adjusting these colours, and then I can start to come in then on the next video with the pencils and start to create more realism and add some details. If you're looking for more art resources, I've really got you covered. I've got a dedicated tutorial website, that's jasonmorgan.co.uk. Lots of videos on there, ebook tutorials, you name it, it's on that site. I've got a Patreon art channel. So every month I put up brand new videos, and that could be pastel videos, oils, charcoals, they're full-length videos. And there's also photo references with the Easy Trace line art on there. I've got quite a few hundred people supporting me, and that's on Patreon. And also, if you're after even more reference photos, I got a dedicated website just packed with reference photos. I think there's about 900 on there at the moment. So that's wildlifeart-online.com. Now, please, with my YouTube channel, new videos coming on here as well. If you can possibly subscribe to the channel, then you're never going to miss out on new videos.